said, that was to be part of the evidence.
Okay.
All
then,
right. So
then this will stay with the file.
what I was calling about and inquiring about was what happened. Now I'll have to speak as an official representative of DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated. There was some information and property that belonged to DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated, and it was in the corporate's best interests to understand what is being done with that information and to be apprised of the situation. And in doing so, DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated is requesting an email address in which to communicate what is being done with its property, which is part of the file that is being handed over to the RCMP in the North Battleford Detachment by its representative, Dale Richardson.
Okay, Dale, can you speak in layman terms for me, please? I just don't understand what you're asking.
I'll speak in an unofficial capacity to explain in layman's terms what I've just said. Is that DSR Cares Consulting has given permission to use some of its property to the RCMP detachment in North Battleford pertinent to the case regarding the uttering threats.
Okay.
Now that information now is, as it's property of DSR Cares Consulting, it would like to know and be apprised of, through email communication, what is being done with its property.
Okay, which property is this?
The property is the cease and desist order dated May 26th, and there is also a direct request letter that was sent to the North Battleford Church, which I believe it is dated May 20th, 2020. And so that is part of the information package that is being supplied to the RCMP with respect to the uttering threats. This was pertinent information that should have been supplied previously when they came and made the complaint.
Okay, which cease and desist is this? Because I did not create any sort of
No,
whatsoever.
there was a cease and desist order that was given to James Kwan and the Manitoba Saskatchewan Conference of Seventh-day Adventists dated May 26th, based on some text messages that are also supplied inside of that report that outline James Kwan going against the wishes of Dale Richardson, who was a officer or of the Battleford's SDA Church, and they did illegally remove him from a position by violating the Not-for-Profit Act of Saskatchewan, by removing him from that. And in order to help perpetrate that lie, he continued to use his position to lie and defame the officer of DSR Cares Consulting, culminating in the complaint that was now lodged at the RCMP. Therefore, using the RCMP as the hammer in which to beat Mr. Richardson.
Are you speaking about the fact that he doesn't want you on the private property?
Not only that, but that uttering threats complaint that they made, they made it based on an assumption without any indication. But they didn't give up the leading information before that was relevant to that case, which would have proved them to be liars and not credible. And they have now then came to the RCMP with information that was incorrect, and now has sought to use the RCMP to further the lie that they were trying to perpetrate.
Okay.
So now I've handed over that information.
Okay.
And I was with repeated attempts to discuss this matter with the RCMP.
Okay.
I was given the wrong names of two officers. And not only did I have to make a complaint, but also lodge this with the provincial, municipal, and federal government to get the names of you who was dealing with this.
Okay.
And this is completely unacceptable. So I would like an email address in which communication between DSR Cares Consulting Incorporated and yourself can communicate as to the information contained in there and how it's being used.
Dale, I would rather talk to you in person, and I would rather talk to you over the phone, and I would be happy to help you with your file. There are other officers who are investigating other complaints as well, and I've spoken to Sergeant Serenko, and he's also assisted in providing you both my badge number and my name, which you knew my name when I introduced myself to you the first time.
I have ADHD.
Okay, my apologies, but again, all of that information has been provided. If you require further information, you're more than welcome to make a request. Through email is not the most professional means of doing it, and I would much rather just have it done in a better way.
It is the most transparent means in doing things. And based on the actions of the Battleford's RCMP and Dale Richardson, and also in an official capacity as with the way that it's handled, the corporate property of DSR Karras Consulting is not being in a transparent manner, and therefore it is both DSR Karras Consulting Incorporated and Dale Richardson are both requesting email transmission based to be transparent because the previous actions have not demonstrated transparency. And DSR Karras Consulting Incorporated, it is in their best interests in order to have transparency dealing with their corporate property.
You're requesting 2 documents that were provided to the RCMP.
No, I'm not requesting 2 documents.
Then
DSR Karras Consulting is not requesting the documents. They authorized the documents to be part of the investigation.
Then
what they are asking for, DSR Karras Consulting is asking what is being done and to be apprised of how its property is being used in said such investigation, which it has the legal grounds to ask how its property is being used.
Well, just like this book, it's been put on a hard copy paper folder. It will be held until the purge date is completed. At that point, it is destroyed, but until then, it's being held on file. The Uttering Threats investigation has been completely concluded. No charges have been made, and I dealt with that with you when you came in for a non-custodial, and I told you then that there would be no charges at this time. All I asked you to do was to leave these people alone.
When information pertinent to that case is being brought, there is a duty to examine such evidence. That would have been leading up to it. Because when speaking as an individual, as when I came from the Bible study, I came straight to the RCMP detachment and spoke to you. I had no such time to prepare any such documents. So, in order to do so, I took the time and the liberty to prepare the documents, got the authorization from DSR Karras Consulting to include its property in such documents.
Yes.
So now doing so, I've presented that information that was relevant to that case. So that information that could not have been provided because I did not have the time to do so, was provided to also give light to that case, which is relevant to it.
Right. However, as I said before, the Uttering Threats complaint against you has been concluded based on my investigation.
But there wasn't all the information supplied. And that information...
Would you like me to continue investigating you as whether or not you uttered threats against these people?
I am asking you to look at the evidence that I supplied to you that I did not have the opportunity to supply. Okay. And this is what it's for, because it is demonstrating that the parties that came there, they have lied, and there is written record of that.
Okay.
And then they've come and subsequently have demonstrated behavior that shows that they have covered this lie, and this is just only a continuation of that. And this is something that must be investigated, because if a party comes to lie to the police, to come in and cause them to do something, that is wrong, and that is a misapplication of the law.
Look into that, if that's the
and
case,
that is absolutely what needs to be done.
Yeah, we can look into that. That's if that's the case, that can be looked into if there are documents supplied.
Because now they've not only have come and misused the law and tried to exploit the law, which is something that is for people who are holding those positions as pastors, elders, and other respected members of the community. They should not be exploiting the law in order to punish someone unfairly, which is also now bound. Now it's also stepping onto a violation of my religious freedom. It is also stepping on the bounds of discrimination based on my disability, discrimination based on my skin color and ethnicity, discrimination based on my daughter's ethnicity of both being black and Métis. So when you look at all of these things that have been done, yes, an investigation must ensue. And also, it is in the best interest, now speaking on an official capacity as a representative of DSR Karras Consulting Incorporated, it is in the corporate interest to have its chief executive officer free from harassment, discrimination, or any such misconduct by any parties, because it will tarnish the reputation of DSR Karras Consulting, which is a federal corporation that is licensed to operate here in Saskatchewan. And now I'll speak as an individual. So there is a lot of things that have been done wrong, and when someone has done nothing but try to do what is right, and when those members that were there is allegations against them when they took advantage of my vulnerable condition after my wife came inside of the church, assaulted my daughter, who had just been assaulted previously and sexually assaulted. When I came to help her, they tried to pressure me to throw her out onto the street, which would have essentially killed her. And as a father, when I'm suffering with the worst depression of my life and anxiety, and I suffer from ADHD, they pressured me to throw her out. They made racist comments, and when I tried to attempt to speak to them, what did they do? They went and removed me from a position. They lied. They tried to push me outside of the door. And then they called the RCMP to try to cover it when I tried to use the legal means from the Not-for-Profit Act of Saskatchewan and the church manual. I followed what they did from both a biblical standpoint and a legal standpoint. I did everything that was legally in my rights to do, and I was extremely patient with them. And how did they repay that kindness and that respect for the law? They repaid it with dishonesty and tried to use the RCMP as the hammer in which to do so.
Okay.
So please investigate it.
Okay.
Keep that with your records, because that will also contain information that speaks to the very thing that they were doing.
Okay. Okay.
Did you leave a phone number with Sergeant Sarenko when you spoke with him?
Yes, I can leave.
If he has it, that's as long as he has it. That's all.
And there should be phone numbers on the documents as well.
Okay,
Yes.
no problem.
Okay. All right.
All
Then
right.
this book is going to stay with the paper folder file.
Absolutely.
As with everything else. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.